Yeah. All right. So Prop 8, right? Let's talk about some fun times with Prop 8. Wow. Okay, so it's like you're an LGBT activist before Prop 8, right? And then you're an LGBT activist after Prop 8. It's like so different. All these people came out of the woodwork. They all had to have. You remember the picture. And you weren't really an LGBT activist unless you had your mouth taped. And I was like, psh, I'm gonna have residue on my mouth from y'all. Sorry. They offered me. They were like, "Oh, you can come," and I even had like a reservation to do it like, a couple times. And I just flaked. They're like, "You're not coming." I was like, "No, I'm really not. I don't. Concept wise, I'm still not here for it as a black person." um, so but respect, right? It was a really cool campaign, the No on Hate campaign that was produced, and people felt so like this is my world, right? And it was interesting because I had been in LGBT activism for like 10 years prior, and now was seeing people just like popping up. We're like, I'm ready to plan a march, and I'm like, okay. Well, have you talked to the police about helping protect your march so you don't get killed? Like, and all these different things that you would have to often do to do visible LGBT activism 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 14 years ago. So it was interesting because there was some major moments that happened for me at this one Prop 8 march and rally. It happened basically there were a couple events that happened. There was the after Prop 8, the year after, there were conventions and conferences commemorate right what happened, but the day of there were things that happened, and the day after there were also things that happened. If you want to file it away from LGBT history from somebody who was there at that time, I was, like many LGBT people who live in the LA area, when stuff happens, a lot of times you might go to Santa Monica and like West Wally, the Robertson, Santa Monica, and La Cienega. Between those two areas, it's kind of like the main WeHo or West Hollywood part where a lot of people do stuff, and then near in the park, in the West Hollywood Park, is usually gatherings or memorials for people we've lost, or remembrances of LGBT events like Stonewall, or you know HIV heroes or heroines that we have lost, right? So we would have different things like that. So you kind of knew if something went down, like you could show up there, and like that's where we showed up when Matthew Shepard died. And that's when we showed up when these other things happen, and it's like a place where you can have other community members have your back just during that. Which was not the case for myself and many black people who showed up to West Hollywood the day of and the day after Prop 8. Essentially, there was a perception that was often, it was perpetuated by columnists like Dan Savage and others, that the kind of outcome of Prop 8 had been largely dependent on black voters, and that many black voters had turned out for Obama in historic numbers, and in California, they had also turned out to vote against LGBT people. So that was disproven over many different types of research. Projects have shown that that didn't happen, and other research has shown that black communities are very resistant to voting against, you know, rights, right? Fairly resistant towards removing rights. Usually are not engaged in that process for any community, as part of our history of black folks, right? And so that wasn't the case. And my own experience as a black LGBT activist was that I had been in Los Angeles and been in California in 2008, and had kind of seen that nothing had happened. No outreach had happened to black communities. And we had really, famous black LGBT advocates who were trying to request things. I had met a lesbian couple at the time that they were together. I think both of them identified as lesbian and queer women, and they had gone to a No on 8 campaign office, they told me, and been denied the opportunity to volunteer, right? And so I was hearing from all these black folks that the No on 8 campaign, specifically the leadership of Jeff Kors, leadership of Lori Jean, had made decisions that were very antagonistic and rejecting a black community. So the day after, I was like, let's go confront her. because she about to come speak and be like blah 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 black people. So some of us went to the parade and basically confronted her and were like, you need to stop being full of crap. Like, damn well that we asked you for signs, we asked for opportunities to volunteer. You said we couldn't. You said it would look bad. You said it would be bad. Our signs would get stolen. It would become a news story for the right wing. I mean, I can't tell you how many excuses were given. Ultimately, I think the final number was out of a $60 million campaign. No one ate dedicated $250,000 to outreach to African American communities during the Obama election. Like, what is wrong with you, right? So, it's like, black voters are being outreached to, and you're going to explicitly ignore them, antagonize, be upset, ignore black LGBT people, ignore anybody offering to host a campaign office in a black neighborhood, accuse us of being, plants, It was beyond. So I was already a little bit hot. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. And then I saw Wanda. And Wanda Sykes, unbeknownst to me until this moment, was a lesbian. And unbeknownst to the world, because she wasn't out. And here she was in West Hollywood, crying with a little flag, with some kids and a partner. And it was like, here's my little lesbian family, looking at everybody like, see, I'm here, I'm queer. And I'm like, motherfucker, you went not queer. Because, and I said, I went right up to her. I was like, I know the kids are there, so I'm going to say it real soft. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be hard because the kids are right there, right? But I'm like, listen, come out, though. And she was like, I hear you. And she came out like a little bit after that. I was like, thank God, because like literally, you're so gay. And we've got all these people who are closeted because they feel that they're black, they're Indian, they are Asian, and so they can't be both, right? And meanwhile, we're not talking about the fact that often black LGBT people do have additional kind of support circles or systems within entertainment or in media, in part because so many people are closeted, right? So when you have all these people living in a closeted life, it's kind of right, leading to more closets, leading to more people being upset and sad to me, because if you're for equality and you're saying that, then you should definitely be equal for yourself, right? And so that was kind of my experience, was really seeing with Prop 8 that there was a real specific open antagonism from white LGBT leadership that reflected most likely historic antagonism or historic, deep conflict that's existed between black community organizing and LGBT community organizing. That these days is becoming less. Yeah, no. I heard a white LGBT going off on Al Sharpton just the other day. Just like literally the other day, they were like, no, Al Sharpton. I was like, hey, Al Sharpton came out of your mouth, out of your white lily little mouth. Ugh. I mean, I love his mouth. I really do. It's a good mouth. But besides the fact that it comes out with Al Sharpton and wants to talk some stuff, right? I have nothing to say. It's like, you do not come to black people asking us to attack Al Sharpton for any reason. Don't come to black people asking black people to attack, right? Why? Like, work it through. Why are you always asking about this? Instead of being like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we reached out and educated or had an opportunity? No. Let's see if we can attack, right? So it's pretty consistent, and I think that if you pay attention, you will find that these are not just experiences representative of me, but representative of many black LGBT people, and that's why we're not in the clubs with them. We go to our own clubs, like even in West Hollywood, you'll see like there's certain clubs that are with more black folks than other clubs, because there's some places where we know we're not necessarily wanted. People are pushing us out. There's a negative feeling within the LGBT community about LGBT people who are black, right? People put it on their things. No Asians, no blacks. They're very open about things in a way that I think it'd be very helpful to keep on illuminating for the straights. I'm like, why should you do anything they're not doing?